Now, let's say if we needed to make some changes to the configuration such that we get complete control of the Apache web server. Say we don't want the Apache service to start automatically once it is installed. Let's see how we can do that. We will look for the service modules in Ansible documentation. Execute Ansible-doc-l pipe grep service. OK, here is the service module, and the documentation says this particular module can be used to manage services. Well, that is exactly what we are looking for. So let's review the documentation for this module in more detail. Let's open the manual for the service module. Ansible-doc service. OK, here is the detailed documentation for the service module. Let's see what input we need to supply it. The mandatory element it is asking for is the service name. And then we need to look at the state argument. Here it also documents all the valid choices we can specify for the state argument. The state can be started or stopped or restarted. Started and stopped are self-explanatory. Restarted means it will restart the service. So armed with this information, let's go back to our Ansible playbook and make sure our Apache service is stopped. Type vi apache_install.yaml and press enter. OK, here we will add a new task. Give this new task a name of Stop the Service. Next, we will specify the module name, which is service, and for the arguments, we will specify name equals Apache2, state equals stopped. OK, so after updating our Ansible playbook like so, now when we run this playbook, this task should ensure that our Apache2 service is stopped. Let's play our update playbook. Ansible-playbook apache_install.yaml-b. So now let's try the curl command for our node 01. And what is this? We are still getting a valid response, which means the service is still running. Let's log into the node and see the status of the service to confirm. Now we are connected to our node 01. Execute service Apache2 status. And indeed, the service is stopped. Let's try curl again on the local host. Execute curl localhost. And we do get a valid response back. OK, so what is happening here is that we have our Nginx service running from our previous installation, which is what is causing the requests to go through. Let's confirm that by executing service Nginx status. Yes, this shows that our Nginx from the previous installation is running. Now we are going to stop it. Execute service Nginx stop to stop it. Now let's confirm the status. Service Nginx status. OK, the Nginx has stopped now. So when we execute the curl command now, curl localhost, it should return nothing. And as expected, it says failed to connect to localhost port 80. Now we can run out playbook once again and verify that everything is running as expected. Before that, let's start our Apache service so that when we run our Ansible playbook, we can verify whether it has actually stopped the service. Execute service Apache2 start. Apache service is started now. Let's verify we can get a valid HTTP response from localhost. Execute curl localhost. Great, so the Apache service has started now, and this is a valid HTTP response we got from our Apache web server. Now let's log out of our node 01 and get back to our playbook and run the playbook. We are back on our master Ansible node. Let's execute Ansible-playbook apache_install.yaml. Nice, so this time we got the expected result. Stop the service command actually returned a changed status, which means it has stopped the Apache service on node 01, which was originally running. Now, if we try to curl node 01, it should return nothing. And as expected, it shows connection refused. Okay, great, so far so good. Now we will use the same playbook to start the Apache service on node 01. Open the playbook file with the VI editor. VI apache_install.yaml. Generally, when we install new services, they do not start automatically. So it is always a good practice to explicitly add tasks to start the services. Here, let's change the state argument from stopped to started. Save our playbook and quit the editor. Now run the playbook once again. Ansible-playbook apache_install.yaml-b. Okay, well, the task name we used was stop the service, but we actually changed the task to start the Apache service on node 01. So everything seems to have gone okay. The service state step returned a changed status, so the expectation here is the Apache service has started on the remote host. Let us try to make an HTTP request to the node 01 server. Execute curl node 01, and we do get a valid response back. Great, so our playbook is working as expected. So in this demo, you learned how we can manipulate the state of the services. Now before we move on, let's revert back the state of the service to stopped. We need this for subsequent demos. We will edit our YAML file and revert back the state argument value to stopped. Save and exit our editor. Now let's get familiar with another Ansible concept called handlers. As we've already seen, Ansible modules are idempotent in nature and can relay when they have made a change on the remote system. Playbooks recognise this and do have the capabilities of a basic event system that can be used to respond to change. These notify actions are triggered at the end of each block of tasks in a play and will only be triggered once. That is even if notified by multiple different tasks. The notify action will be triggered for the entire playbook once. For instance, multiple resources may indicate that Apache needs to be restarted because they have changed a config file. But this restart action for Apache will only be triggered once to avoid unnecessary restarts of the Apache service on the target hosts. The tasks which handle these changes in state on the remote hosts or respond to the events are called handlers. Handlers are lists of tasks, not really any different from regular Ansible tasks, that are referenced by a globally unique name and are notified by notifiers. If nothing notifies a handler, it will not run. Regardless of how many tasks notify an Ansible handler, it will only run once, after all of the tasks complete in a particular play.